Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. This is Dave, and I've got a special guest with me. It's Craig Caudill from the Nature Reliance School. I personally don't have a lot of experience in his classes, but Matt does, and he's not in today. So he'll do a future interview with Craig in a little bit, and they'll talk about some of his experiences with Craig. But Craig teaches a lot of interesting stuff, and I think I live vicariously through Matt when he comes back from one of your classes, Matt. All right, Craig. He tells me all the really cool stuff and what you guys did and how what you learned, and he gets really excited about it like I do when
Good.
I'm talking about my next Glock or something, right?
It's good.
So Craig, tell us about you. Tell us about yourself. Give us the intro.
Oh, great. Thank you for asking. And thank you for allowing me to be on the show. I love talking to people about what it is we do and hearing what you all do and all that stuff from Matt. Matt's been a great friend and a great participant in our classes. He always adds his own expertise into classes. So we love having him down here. But yeah, I'm Craig Caudill. I'm the director of Nature Reliance School, headquartered here in Kentucky. I grew up as a rural farm boy, playing in the woods, hunting, fishing, that kind of stuff, and started when I was a young kid doing some what's commonly referred to as period correct reenacting, dressing up like Daniel Boone and making flint and steel fires and stuff of that nature. And that led to the idea of just what most people would call living off the land, learning how to be self reliant, both in hunting and fishing and shelter and water and all that sort of stuff. And later on, after I'd gone through college, I have a degree in statistics from the University of Kentucky. My intent was to go be a production inventory control manager at large manufacturing facility. Thank goodness that did not work out. So
The
I would
little I
be
know of you, Craig.
I would be miserable right now. But
Yeah, I
anyway,
know.
I started teaching martial arts, combatives, and the like for a number of years. I have advanced black belt degrees in judo and aikido and Japanese swordsmanship as well. And at some point in time, there were several of my students that knew I was just a outdoorsman, and they asked and requested I train them. So we started doing some outdoor training, just real informal, and it went really well. And shortly thereafter, I had a company contact me to do gear reviews on YouTube for their survival gear. And that kind of put me into the industry, if you will, the business of survival and learning how to do that side of it. I up to that point, I thought everybody learned about the outdoors from their parents. And so I didn't realize that was a thing. I really didn't. It was because I've never been technologically advanced, and I spent a lot of time in the woods. That's where I like to be. And so, realizing what was going on there, I'd also attended another survival school outside of my own, obviously at that time, because Nature Reliance School at that early stage really wasn't a thing. It was just it was just teaching friends. And so once I went to this other school, I realized what he taught was stuff I've been doing all my life for fun. And he charged what I considered a crazy amount to do it. And so I thought I could do something similar, probably not charge as much and stay pretty busy. Started doing that and have been pretty busy ever since. The marketers that I was working there for a while, the company that asked me to do the gear reviews, they were the ones that encouraged me, saying, Craig, if you write a book, you become an overnight expert in your field. And so I wrote a book on survival, and that was very difficult to write that very first book. Now I've written 8 different books. So that has, given me a lot of nearly international exposure, which has led to various other things, getting interviewed for national news segments and all that kind of stuff, where I'm a subject matter expert, training military law enforcement, even though I've never been in the military, never been in law enforcement. I recognize I have a tool. They recognize that I have a tool, and that tool is, this woodsmanship or rural operations or tracking or survival navigation, whatever. They have a toolbox of tools, and I can supply them with one. I feel like I'm pretty good at knowing where my lane is. I don't try to teach tactics. I don't teach gunfighting. I don't teach that stuff. I leave that up to guys like you. And so I know where my lane is, and I go out there and stay in my lane, and I do it to the best of my ability. And it's worked pretty good since 2006. So yeah, very pleased to
That's
be
good.
here.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So, like I'm always curious about um, what was somebody's reason for doing this, like getting going. And, you just told me it's been your life. So that's kind
Yeah,
of
it's just it's really weird that well, I shouldn't say it is weird now. It was weird then realizing that people learned about outdoor skills from what we all know now is YouTube and going to classes and paying fees for some stranger to teach you. That's what I do for a living now.
yeah.
And to back then it was strange, and to a degree right now I still think it's a little strange. But I'm surrounded by some great people. I've had some fantastic instructors. So anything that comes out that's good is, a reflection of really good teachers that have trained me. Both people that I grew up with, my dad, my uncles, as well as people that I went to their classes and paid money to train with some of the best in the world at what they do. And so I'm very thankful for my teachers. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's good. So that brings me to an interesting question. So I'll ask it to you. I'll ask you in this way. You said you've gone out to other trainers and
Mhm.
you've learned from them. Um, so from your experience in going to those other trainers, what makes someone a good trainer? Like what would they do that would make you seek them out?
Several things. The first would be that they don't pigeonhole people and they're willing to train whoever. The
Okay.
subject matter is good and they train, and in meaning that it's somebody that knows how to meet people where they are when they come to a class. We had a class this weekend in bushcraft, and I had people that had never done anything with knives, axes, and saws. I also had very advanced people that had built a lot of stuff with knife, axes, and saws. We were all able to learn something and work together. And so that's what I like to see in other people that I train with. Can you manage, manage expectations? For one, that's a big part of being a good instructor. I seek out people that know how to manage expectations before you get there, and then once you're there, can they manage the course so that people are learning? And I would like to add, they teach in such a way that people retain information. In our world, there's a whole lot of take a class, get a certificate, put that in the on the wall, put it in the file, whatever, done. It's a checklist thing, and it's not with them. I love training with people that when I leave, that information is with me. That doesn't mean I don't refresh. That doesn't mean I don't go back to them, go back to the well to get more information. But I want to study with people that know how to integrate what it is that I do. And I would assume, and again, I'm not a firearms instructor, the same way for you all. You don't want somebody to have to go through some acronym or mnemonic or some notes they have from a class they took from you when it's time to get in the middle of a defense situation. They need to
Hmm.
recall that stuff. It needs to happen now. And
Right.
so somebody that can train people to do that in that manner, that's who I'm looking to train with.
Okay. Yeah, good. Yeah. It sounds like, Matt said that we did have a similar outlook to training, so that's exactly
Good.
what we're
Yeah.
doing. Yeah.
Good.
So dovetail off of that. What makes a good student for, because I have an idea of what makes a good student for us. I jokingly said earlier, just show up with a smile and an open mind and bring lunch, and we'll teach you anything you want. But in your craft, in your world, what is there anything else that would make somebody a good student for you?
Ego is a big thing in life. And
Right.
some the person that I like to see coming to class is somebody that knows how to control their ego. And the ego can be on both ends of the spectrum. You've got somebody that has a lot of skill, and they come to a class really because they want to. They, I mean, and I don't know if you have this or not, but we have people that will occasionally come to class, and this is not common. They'll pay their money, come to class so they can tell me how to do things, and that's somebody that doesn't know how to control their ego. So I'm interested in people coming to class that are smarter than me, better than me, even in the things that I'm teaching, but they're coming to dig in and get that one little nugget that I do that's different, and they'll take that home and then it'll make them better. And that's controlling their ego, in my opinion. I
Right.
also want that person that comes in that doesn't know anything and doesn't have a false sense of humility. They're there, they recognize, hey, I'm here to get educated. I'm going to set, the fact that I don't know anything off to the side, and I'm just going to learn. I'm going to open up, and I'm going to take in what I can. And I love seeing people in class taking notes. That means they want to retain it. That means they want to take it home. They didn't come just, and I'm not saying that going for an experience is not a good thing. It is a good thing. There's sometimes where coming to a class with us is just to be there and have the social construct and be around like-minded people and learn things from them. But I absolutely love seeing people when they come to class and they're taking notes, because that means, hey, they really are a student. They're wanting to retain this information. They're wanting to take information away and actually put it to use.
Yeah, and then yeah, they want to be able to refer to it later, so that means they're trying to commit
Absolutely.
it to memory. Yeah. Yeah, we've had those students. We've had
Yeah,
both ends of the
I bet.
spectrum. Um, I've had people in classes that, paid me a few $100s to show off,
Yeah,
and I just thank them for their tuition and hope they
sure.
just didn't screw up and hurt somebody. Um,
Yeah,
then we've had the students that they might be skilled or they might be somewhat skilled, but they're here to see what else they can do and what
sure.
else they can learn, right?
Right, right.
And I do that when I go to classes. We'll go up to Sig Sauer, we'll go to other places, and when I come in there, my approach is, like, "Hi, I'm Dave. I'm a gun guy. I know some things." Right?
Hmm.
I don't have to spill my resume on the table.
Sure.
And usually very quickly, the instructors are going, "Yeah, it's pretty obvious this guy knows what he's doing because he's got his skill set is good." And
Right.
then, then they come over to me and like, okay, what do you do? Who are you? They try to quiz me to see what, super secret squirrel stuff I've done.
Hmm.
And I'm just a gun guy. I just teach people everything. I'm here to, suck whatever knowledge out of your head that I can. And they
Hmm.
appreciate it.
Sure.
And it's rare that I have a bad training day.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Um, so let's so you've mentioned a couple different types of training. So what type of classes do you guys have? You know,
Most of the stuff that we teach is focused on a wilderness environment. So we teach wilderness survival, and we have three levels of that: one, two, and three. One is, well, all of our level one courses are camping events studying the topic,
okay.
meaning bring the kitchen sink. I don't care. I mean, I want you to be comfortable sleeping. I want you to eat well, because if you do that in a level one course, you're gonna have rest. You're going to retain more information. You're going to get your money's worth out of class. If it's really difficult, then it's hard to retain information. And I had one of my man tracking instructors. He was had been involved in a task force with special forces and West Point graduate and all this stuff. And he said, Craig, leave the selection courses to the military. That's not what you're doing. You are an educator. You're not running selection. Teach these people, please, because there's a lot of guys that have ego issues that run schools, and they're trying to run some sort of special forces selection wilderness survival course, and that's stupid, because that's not how it happens. That doesn't mean we don't do other things. We have a SEER course. Matt's gone through the SEER course.
Mhm.
It's difficult. It is an absolute kick in the pants course. That's a different audience for sure. We
Exactly.
also do what? Go ahead, Dave.
I said, no, exactly. Matt's told me quite a bit about that. And I was like, okay, well,
Yeah. Yeah, it's not the level one course. It's difficult. We teach land navigation same way, beginner and advanced courses. We teach a whole lot of tracking. That's, if anything sets us apart from your typical outdoor wilderness school, it's probably the tracking, because very few people engage and put the time in to do that topic right. We do that very well, and then we have a class called Nature Immersion, which is, I'm a certified master naturalist as well, and one of our other instructors is one of my instructors for master naturalist training, and he comes in and we basically teach different aspects of master naturalist on a weekend level. And so it's basically an intro to the outdoors for the outdoorsman, tree identification, forest ecology, bird song, and what that tells you. And it's all related, quite frankly. It's some of the same stuff that I'll teach military and law enforcement. Bird song sounds like a granola hippie kind of thing, but if you're tied into the birds, when you're crawling into a hide or doing a recce, if the birds are alarming everybody in the woods that you're there, that's a problem. That's a real problem. So I teach people bird song that are just kids, naturalists, and operators that crawl through the woods hiding. and it's all the same material, just so you can become an outdoorsman and know, hey, if I crawl across that jewelweed, it's going to leave sign. If you
You
know,
said,
that's that type of thing, because that's a real sensitive plant. If I crawl across, that fescue, it won't leave sign. So that kind of stuff, or it won't leave as much sun. But that kind of stuff, it's all wilderness based for the most part. And then I also have an online school, and in my online school, we teach a host of different things along the same topics, but I have a really in-depth disaster readiness course that is both urban and rural focused, so that it's basically disaster preparedness, disaster resiliency, no matter where you live, whether you live in New York City or whether you live in small town Kentucky.
that last one might be a hot button the closer we get to the end of the year.
It needs to be, and that's why I built that course several years ago, and we've launched it and updated it regularly, and we continue to
Okay.
update it on a regular basis because of things that are happening. I serve on the National Disaster Resilience Council. It's a hodgepodge of alphabet soup people that have come together to prepare us for, just one of the many things that could happen, like specifically an EMP. We're getting prepared, people prepared for the possibility of an EMP. And
Right.
so that's just one of many things that could occur that have legitimate intel out there that it's likely to occur at some point in time. And so that's what our vital survival course does in our online course.
That's the name of it, Vital Survival.
Yeah, it's on the NRS online membership. It's online
Okay.
courses, but it is one course of many that if you become a member of our online courses, then it's just one of the several courses that are in there, along with all the other wilderness stuff too.
Well, I just finished a course of study for another project, so I might be looking for something else to do here. So
All right, cool. Yeah, we'd love to have you.
I think it'll be interesting. I'm always trying to figure some new stuff out.
Yeah,
Um, for instance, when I get a student in a class who is from a demographic I'm not very familiar with, doesn't matter where,
sure.
um, I'll,
Same
I'll
way.
some, like what's your first thought on this? Interestingly, I got a gentleman in he's from Great Britain. He's
Mm-mm.
from northern London, I think he said. And we just got talking, and I'm like, what was the biggest surprise you had when you came to America? Because he's been here about 7 years. And he goes, I honestly thought all of you were going to be wearing cowboy boots.
Yeah, nice. I get it.
Could have been
Dude,
worse.
3 weeks ago, we had a man tracking class. We had a gentleman in there that was an Aussie. He was a Marine from Australia, and he had been working here in the States for a year or two. I can't remember how long. And we asked him the same questions, what you're describing right there. And he's like,
Yeah.
I think the first question we asked him, what's the most American thing you've experienced since you got here? And he said, I went to a county fair in Indiana. And he was like, I had no idea. He said it felt so America. And I was like, yes. All
That's
the
got to be a
corn
culture
dogs,
shock.
Oreos deep fried, and all that stuff. It was so funny listening to him talk. It was so funny.
You must have had a blast.
He did. He was a great student too. He worked really hard for us.
That's cool. That's cool. Let's see. So we got that types of classes. What about experience with tracking and training trackers? Delve into this a little bit.
Oh wow. So that if I could do that every day, Dave, I would. I absolutely love tracking. It's my jam. I do track nearly every day. I'm doing something with tracking every day, whether I'm actually tracking, reading somebody else's tracking material that I have, or engaged in watching I've got a lot of video from good instructors, both military and law enforcement on tracking. I'm always trying to advance my skill set. I'm always trying to pick out that one more nugget that I've missed and that sort of thing. So training trackers it's special. It's very difficult because you all probably teach some version of whatever you call it, maybe a situational awareness or something of that nature. Tracking is just what I refer to as heightened situational awareness. You're now
Okay.
able to read the environment and recognize somebody's been through here and they've been through here recently, or something's been through here and I have no idea how long they've been through here, or how long it's been since they've been through here. So tracking is the beginning stages is that. And then learning how to follow up and track something or someone is its own animal in and of itself. There's, everything that I cover, I call it the 4 puzzle pieces of self-reliance: mindset, skills, teamwork, and gear. And so there's a mindset component to all of it. There's the skill, there's the teamwork, and there's the gear. And so in tracking, especially when you're doing human tracking, whether it's fugitive apprehension for law enforcement or battlefield tactics on the battlefield trying to hunt down, finish the enemy, uh, it's best to have a team approach because somebody's trying to hurt you more than likely in return for you coming after them. So that's different than being a search and rescue human tracker where the person's wanting to be found that's out there typically.
Yeah.
And so that is the teamwork or the tactics side of it. Skill is the same. It doesn't matter if I'm tracking a raccoon or I'm tracking a fugitive. It's disturbance versus baseline. You know, the environment has a baseline of understanding just like human activity does, and the disturbance in the baseline is what we're looking for as trackers. So I have to teach people more than anything else what a baseline looks like first. And then when they recognize that there's a disturbance in that baseline, how to read it and follow it if it's warranted to follow it or ignore it because, hey, you know, we're tracking humans. This is a fugitive apprehension situation. And this happened in Pennsylvania. There were a bunch of really good trackers up there. And there were a lot of people that were new to tracking in Pennsylvania when those two guys were out. Not the two guys, but the one guy, Eric Frayne, was out and about in Pennsylvania.
Uh-huh.
There were a lot of people that were new to tracking that got off on deer trails because they saw disturbance and they got on and they were tracking a deer and they didn't realize that thought they were on a human. And so there comes a time where you have to recognize, okay, this is disturbance, but it's not what I'm looking for. You have to confirm what it is that you're tracking. And that's as good a skill set it is following up, is learning when not to follow a certain sign.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So there's, because I was wondering if like some people, I'm sure there is, like some people have a knack for hand-eye coordination and motor
Mm-hmm.
control and, the development of those skills, especially in my world. Do you find that there are some people who tend to be a little more naturally gifted
Yes,
toward
without a
yours?
doubt. Without a
Yeah.
doubt. My wife's one of them. And my wife is an artist. And so she has an eye for art and photography and stuff of that nature. She does all the photography for my books and our social media and everything. She's quite the artist. And what comes well, I shouldn't say that it all came natural to her because she took art classes when she was in school, like grade school, and she taught art for a little while after she got out of college. But some of that is in her that she was born with, she sees that I had to develop that skill set. And she's actually
Uh,
helped me with quite a bit of it. Like she's one of these people that can walk through a yard and find four-leaf clovers in a matter of 30 seconds. She can see that. I have yet to find one in my life. She can find four tomorrow in our backyard. So she has an eye, and there's a lot to it. It's interesting because my daughter recently got married, and she married a guy who was studying how the eye and the brain work in concert together. And I'm trying to pick his brain on how all that works to help me become a better instructor of man tracking or animal tracking, because that's what's happening. We see what's there. Our eyes pick it up. It's processing that information and making sure that the processing of that information is quick, gets filed where it's supposed to be so that we can recall and go, yep, that's the human I'm looking for. Let's get on them. And so that process, there are some people that are natural that would do that quicker than even me who have had to teach myself how to do that. They might have done that very naturally.
oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay. Um, so speaking of, you're kind of leading into it when we're talking about trekking people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what's been your most, I'll go both ways. What has been the most difficult and what has been the most rewarding trek you've been on, trekking a human?
Yeah. So there's, mm,
I know I went off on a tangent on you.
No, 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 no. I'm trying to because there's been several different things, and I don't want to lead people astray. I do a lot of training of people, but I don't do a whole lot of service for search and rescue to law enforcement.
Okay. Okay.
Here where I'm located, and I'm assuming this is the way it is most places, for me to get on a track line when law enforcement are in the midst of an investigation, I have to be law enforcement. At one point in time, I was deputized to be able to do exactly that. And due to politics and stuff, I lost the opportunity to do that. New sheriff in town, and then I'm no longer a deputy. Okay. That kind of stuff happens. So, up until that time, I was doing some things that were active law enforcement tracks. Uh, some of the things that have happened is being able to help people find closure to somebody that's been lost. And even if it's somebody that's passed away, even if I provided the smallest portion of that, that's been very, very rewarding to help families get closure, I guess is a good way of saying that. The hardest thing I've ever done is, and this is going to sound silly because it's 180 degrees, what I was just talking about, is tracking a chipmunk. So
Okay.
I commit to tracking a certain animal for a year on top of my regular tracking. And last year, I determined that I was going to track chipmunks and see what I could find, and basically do a naturalist study on chipmunks and find where they live, what kind of things they like to eat, when they leave sign, what does it look like? What does it look like when they walk on top of the leaves? What does it look like when they go under the leaves? And can I recognize that when I'm walking through the woods? And now I can, but before I did that, I couldn't. And now, I mean, I guess I realize at this point, it took a solid year to be able to recognize that little bitty critter walking through leaf litter. That's tough. It's really tough. But what it taught me is, and what it taught me is basically learning how to see micro details or fine details in a track line, and then being able to apply that with a larger quarry, whether it be human or deer or elk or bear or whatever. It makes that part of it a little bit easier because finding those micro details are very, very difficult. So that's helped quite a bit.
Yeah, I think I need to start with like an elephant, maybe
Right.
something fairly obvious, and then start
There's
down.
nothing wrong with that. I mean, I would agree. Anything that makes it easy for people to go out and see sign, that's what I'm about. Anybody that's going to start.
Yeah.
So I mean, even in our classes, we leave what we call courtesy clues and sympathy sign. Because when I'm putting a new tracker on a track line, we're going to scuff the ground as we go along on purpose. Because if I just walk out into the woods, that's tough. It is very, very difficult. And I think that's one of the things that people absolutely miss is that tracking is not getting on a track line and seeing every single step. You just can't do it. You lose the sign more than you keep up with the sign. That one of my instructors, Mike Hull, one of the greatest man trackers in the world, he told me a long time ago, Craig, the difference between a master tracker and a beginner tracker is the master tracker realizes that he's lost the sign and immediately goes into lost sign procedure. Whereas the beginner tracker tries to continue to force it to happen and make it happen where they think it should be.
Oh.
And I think I understand that. I don't know that I understood it when he told me that probably 10 years ago. Now I feel like I have a pretty good grasp of it because I do that. I'm okay. 100% okay with losing the sign now. It doesn't bother me at all anymore. I have no ego attached to it. It is what it is. And I immediately go into lost sign procedure. And if you have good procedures, then you'll reacquire the track line most of the time. And so that's, it's quite a battle in ego and controlling one's ego. That's for sure.
Actually, I'm actually getting interested in a couple of things, and I am not sucking up to you because that's not the kind of guy I am. I'm gonna be looking up your online course and like start looking at some of that stuff because I've never done that.
Well, I've got a free course too that I pass out, and I'll send you a link to that so you can get in
Oh,
on at least on that free course. It's a basic intro to disaster readiness,
that
and it
like
goes
just a
over.
little.
Yeah, it
Well,
is. And in all honesty, you know how this works. I mean,
yeah.
but I like to give people something. It's not just marketing and it's not just funnels and all that stuff, although that's part of it. I love giving
Yeah.
people stuff and helping people. And I have given away in this free course a ton of information that I should be charging a lot of money for. But
Yeah.
one of the keys to community disaster readiness is as many people as possibly need to be trained. And so I feel pretty good about the fact that I have put out a free course so that I can get there's no barrier to entry in that course. It's just sign up to that puppy, do the information, and you'll learn a lot. Now, if you want more, sure, I've got more,
Yeah.
but at least that'll get you
Card
on.
out, put it in the website.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm not bashful about telling people I've got to make
Yeah.
a living doing something, but I'm
Well,
also very keen on helping people, even sometimes for free.
yeah. Well, if you look at it, I tell people, they ask, why do you charge X for this class? I was like, well, you're not paying for the class. you're paying for the expertise that goes into this class.
Hmm.
Kind of like with your background, my tuition to you is going to pay you for your lifetime of experience
Sure.
that you're giving to me in a weekend.
Right.
So, yeah,
Right. Exactly.
why shouldn't you charge for it, right?
Right.
No, I think it'd be interesting. It's especially the disaster stuff. So when we get you up here, how many days you want to be up here for?
Yeah, we can
I'm
figure that
thinking a
out.
seminar one evening and
That's fine. We can figure that out. I'll be happy to figure that out with
yeah,
you.
I think it'll be something new here and interesting up here because
Okay.
Matt has told me he's looked around here, just to see if there's anything similar because
Yeah.
he wanted to practice. He wanted to refresh a little bit, um, without making the 14 and a half hour ride down to you,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
He says, I can only do that so many times.
Yeah.
And
That's
he says
tough.
he can't find anybody up here.
That's tough, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out, man. I'll
Okay,
get up
cool.
there. We'll make it happen.
All right, let's get back into it. And all right. So Craig, if let's talk about some kind of current events.
Okay.
The minute I saw this appear on the news, no lie, I immediately thought about you and thought if they were going to call you because I remember I saw you, you were interviewed for America's Most Wanted, and I've seen a couple other things that you've posted, and I've actually your face has turned up on a couple other things in the past year or so that probably happened years prior, but they're like refreshing it.
Hmm.
So yeah, obviously you've been consulted a few times.
I have been.
Um, and in some ways, when they come to you for that advice, does that give you, some people have to admit it might be a tiny, tiny little bit of a pat on the back to say, yeah, everything I'm doing is worth it because now they're asking me about it.
I don't think of it that way. But what I
Okay.
do think is that I am very happy that I can play, even if it's a small role, in putting idiots that shoot at people on an interstate into prison. Anything that I can do to help the people that are out there hunting this dude down, I, it tickles me. It makes me happy to know that I've played a role in that. Now, me going out there and track again, I'm not law enforcement, so I can't get on that track line. But when they first announced who was down there tracking, there were 6 different teams, and out of those 6, there's 5 that I've worked with, that I've trained. And when I say I've trained, some of them I've trained on my own. Some of those I've assisted. One of my teachers, Michael, I mentioned him earlier. I've helped him train a couple of those teams and working as his assistant. So been engaged and involved in getting some of those teams ready to do exactly what they're down there to do. And quite frankly, at 55 years of age and after doing judo for 30 years, they're the better operator to be in the woods than I am. Quite frankly, they're younger. They're the dudes that are down there are just rock solid dudes as far as tactics and tracking and knowing how to do small unit tactics and move as a unit, communications, comms, med, all that stuff. They all do that really well. They are the guys that need to be in the woods doing that, and I am not. Again, they have a toolbox of skills that have a lot of tools in it, and I've got a toolbox of skills. Some of them they have no need for. Bushcraft, for example, they have no need for that, but I'm really good at it, right? And so I teach people that. But tracking, that's where the Venn diagram for us intersects. I can help them with tracking. I do tracking, and so I help them with that to add to their toolbox. And I just hope I want them to nail this dude. I want him to pay for
Yeah.
what he's done. I mean, since I'm talking to you, I think you can understand this as much or better than I can. I love firearms. I've used firearms for hunting and just shooting for the fun of it. And I have firearms for self defense. And I've trained with organizations like yours down here so that I know how to use both long gun and sidearms to be able to do that effectively as best I can. And when idiots do stuff like this, it hurts my opportunity to do that because it then becomes a political situation. And so the more and better I can help people like that go to prison so it at least keeps other people from considering doing stupid stuff like that, I'm all about it. And I don't think of it as a pat on the back to me. Those are the guys that are down there doing the work. I've just helped them get there.
Yeah, that says a lot there. It's like, you did your part, you got them prepared to go do that.
Yeah,
Right.
and they're better than me. I mean, these guys are 35 year old, probably some of them 25 to 30-year old. I mean, and they look like Greek Adonis walking through the woods with multicam and rifles, man. Those are the guys I want going through the woods getting these dudes. Now, if they called me and said, Craig, can you come down here? I'd get on the helo tomorrow. I would do it. I would do everything I could to help them.
You tell them
But
where to drop the static line to come pick you up.
yeah, I mean, I know, I'm telling you right now, I know where the helo landing zone closest to my house is right now, so that I could tell them that.
That's right.
So yeah,
Cool. Yeah. Um, so that whole thing is just crazy. No, no, I haven't been able to keep up on it. He's still not found yet.
he's not found yet. So
Okay.
there's several scenarios that have happened, and um, I won't put these in any specific order
It's
of
fine.
what's likely to happen, but the two or three things that I think that have happened is that he's still out there and he's alive and they haven't found him. He's out there dead because he committed suicide or somebody picked him up. I mean, those are two of the three things that even the Kentucky State Police have said. It's not anything that I'm sharing that's private or classified or anything of that nature. I mean, this is all public on the news. Those are the three big scenarios that are possibilities, and I feel pretty comfortable with one of those being the case. But until we find him or his body, we won't know. And
Yeah.
so, Kentucky State Police, I'll say this again. I said it on a news interview the other day and it didn't make it to the news. And hopefully somebody will see this and they can hear it. I've helped train the Kentucky State Police SRT team, again, as an assistant to Mike, some of the best man trackers in the world. And I'm not just saying that because I'm from Kentucky. These guys are top notch man trackers. You couldn't ask for a better team to be in the woods hunting this dude. I know that they know how to do it and they know how to do it right. Mike has trained them right. And so they're a great group of guys to be out there.
Well, that's good. I hope they do find this guy and
I do
stop
too,
this.
man. I'll be frank with you, it just pisses me off because it's just one more thing that hurts us gun owners. It hurts us.
Yeah. So let's change gears a little bit.
Sure.
I know I've heard a few. I can't recall them, but I know I've heard things like people say, "Oh, if you're ever in the woods and you get lost, do this or don't do this." But if there were some myths or some completely blatant untruths, whether it's you'd like, nah, you shouldn't do that, or I wish people would say that, or I wish people would stop saying that, what would be your list or
Oh
a few
man.
samples?
The big one, and it's making the rounds again right now on social media. Social media is so helpful in many ways, and it's so problematic in other ways. But right now, one of the things that's making the rounds is, if you got any cell coverage, leave a voicemail. It says where you are, and then see some people call and they can get your voicemail and say you're here. That's the biggest bunch of crap I've ever read. I mean, it's so stupid. I mean, because it doesn't work that way. The cell phone doesn't work that way. If you've got cell coverage, my gosh, call 911 or call somebody. Don't take the time to leave a voicemail. Call someone. That's a big thing. That's a huge thing. And one that, and it kind of goes hand in hand with what you shouldn't do with what you should do. So I'll dig into that. But a
That's
lot of
fine.
people think the answer is to self rescue. And the best answer to be found by search and rescue is to literally, when you determine that you are lost, to sit your butt down and wait. Because the more you're up, the more difficult you make it for search and rescue to find you. And so search and rescue is going to set up a map and it's going to have quadrants in it. And they're going to have what's called the last known point, which is the last place that anybody knew that you were. And they're going to make all their operational decisions based upon that last known point, LKP. They're going to draw a circle and then they're going to focus their human resources. And if they have technological resources or canine resources, they'll focus them in certain areas based upon, hey, this is Craig Caudill. He's a 55-year-old male. He's moderately healthy. He's got a bad hip. So those kind of things they literally do take into consideration. And so if Craig's been gone for 2 days, he can walk this many miles. So they'll draw that circle out. It's called Lost Person Behavior. It's a fantastic book and course that search and rescue people take. And if you sit down, you're more likely to be in one of those quadrants where they're pushing human resources, canine or technological resources. Now, drones are becoming so affordable that some search and rescue teams can afford infrared or even thermal drones to help find you. And that way it's easier for people to find you. It's very, very problematic to continue to move when you're lost.
So that old wander around in a circle and ever expanding route is just stop, just sit down and
Yeah,
wait.
and there's a lot of myths out there about that, but that is one thing that's very true. And the reason that people do walk in circles is because we are left or right foot dominant, just like we're left or right hand dominant. And so when we come to an obstruction, whether it's a tree, a bush, a river, or whatever, and we have to walk around it, we'll typically push off with our dominant foot. And if we repeat that over and over, we basically continue to make a circle. And the first time I ever did this, like when I was a younger man, I used to purposely go to the woods and grouse hunt and basically try to get lost. I mean, it really wasn't me trying to get lost, but I would just go. And I remember kind of getting disoriented once, and I did exactly that. I walked in a circle and I came across, there was a bucket out in the middle of the woods that I came across that I thought, how in the world, who carried a bucket this far out in the middle of nowhere? And I came across that same bucket about an hour and a half after I'd passed it the first time, because I was out just hunting grouse. But what I had done very naturally is pushed off with my dominant foot and literally walked in a circle and came right back to where I was to that bucket and thought, I mean, this was when I was a young man. I had no idea why I did that. I don't know how I did it. I do now. I understand very well now, but it's true. And so, again, the best thing to do is sit your butt down. If you got some sort of signaling, put it up. I always take an orange bandana with me so that if I have to sit down, I can tie something in a tree. Because I'm usually in the woods in at the very least earth tone clothing, sometimes with camouflage, and so it'd be hard to find me particularly if I'm hunting or something. So I'll take an orange bandana or maybe an orange t-shirt. I'll have that on underneath my clothes so I can take that off, hang it up in a tree, and make it easier for people to find me.
Yeah, at least something to get them to indicate on, right?
Sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, what are other myths? Like stuff that you people will come to class and say, "Hey, Craig, I heard this," and you just shake your head and go, "No."
Pretty much anything that happens on survival TV. It's the biggest crock of crap. It drives me crazy.
You
I
mean
saw
TV's
this
wrong?
dude. I saw this dude put black powder in a wound and catch it on fire to, cauterize a wound. Okay, then he's stupid. Don't do that. I mean, I like to call survival TV edutainment. There's enough stuff there that you feel like you're being educated, but more than anything else, it's entertainment. And yeah, I mean, it's just that kind of silliness happens all the time. And I spend a lot of time seeing or having people come to class that have seen things on TV and thought, hey, I can do this, or this guy did this, or this gal did this. And it's probably a bad decision to do most of that. The best way to do survival is what we all know is kiss it. Just keep it simple, stupid. Keep it as simple as possible, because simple works under pressure. It works under stress, or it works better under stress. It works better under pressure. And the more difficult or technical things become, then it's hard to recreate. And so why not make survival simple? Shelter, water, food, pretty much in that order. Yeah.
Yeah. There was a guy, there's a gentleman who did search and rescue up here a long time ago. And I remember when he did a seminar, we're probably going back 15 years now. And he actually said, if you go hiking in the woods, bring at least two things, water and a compass.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, and if you have room, bring extra food. Because if you get lost, at least you'll be comfortable.
Yeah, I tell people every time they go into the woods, even if they're going for a day hike for an hour, to take enough gear with you to make it through an uncomfortable night in the outdoors. And that can be 10 pounds or less. For example, garbage bag's a fantastic piece of survival equipment. Cut a hole in the
Okay.
bottom of it, stick it over your head. You got a rain jacket, you got a windproof jacket on. Like, boom. And it weighs nearly nothing. It is very inexpensive. It doesn't take up much space in a pack or a back pocket. A bandana signals you, and you can use a bandana to filter out sediment. I mean, it's just these things like a bandana and a knife and a garbage bag and duct tape and paracorder. These are things that have multi-use. And a few things like that will make it give you the ability to survive an unexpected night outdoors. Now, if you like it and you have the body to carry something more, then carry a little bit more. Carry a tarp, because a tarp's going to make your life a whole lot easier. A poncho type tarp, where now you've got a poncho you can actually put over you.
Right.
Fire starting material, and carry that sort of thing. But at the very least, an uncomfortable night outdoors.
I like that. I like that. So it's, gives me, now I'm already started thinking about the pack that I had, that we've gone hiking with Matt and his wife Nan,
Mm-hmm.
and they, you know, and it's not, Matt is just Matt. I tease him a little bit, but I don't fault him because I know at some point everything he hauls with him is probably going to be useful, and
Mm-hmm.
we're going to be glad he brought it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I understand.
And but I always, we go to training courses. I'm like, Matt, you get two bags, and he shows up with four because he's got to have this, he's got to have this, he's got to have this, and we tease him, but we also know that, hey, this is, he's planned this. He's just not
Yep.
throwing a pack together because he wants to carry more garbage around.
Right. Sure.
Everything has a use, and I've talked to him about it, and I've got a couple of packs that I've put together for stuff, but I know I can probably refine it and add to it and change it, but
Hey,
it's
and I do that too, Dave. And I'm going to do that in every season. My pack changes depending upon the season. Like, I need to change mine out because it's starting to get cooler here. I haven't had a whole lot of insulating layers in my kit all summer because it's been 95 freaking degrees here. I don't need that. But I'm getting into weather soon where, yes, I definitely need that. And so I will change that sort of thing out each season. It changes. I used to have one kit when my kids were living at home. I have a totally different kit now because it's just me and my wife. My kids are out of the house. So that kind of stuff needs to be taken in consideration. And all your listeners need to consider that it really is dependent upon terrain and geography, where you're located at. Because what you need in New York is different than what I need in Kentucky, and different than what
yeah,
people need in Southern Alabama. Those are different needs because of terrain and geography. And so anybody that says, okay, if anybody in my position, a survival instructor, says this is the kit everybody should have and this will take care of everybody, is a fool. You need to know how to build in what you need based upon your fitness level, your geography, your terrain, your skill level. Those all change based upon every one of us. Like, what you would carry for self-defense, firearm use might be a little different than me because I'm not as accomplished as you in that regard. And you're a lot smarter than me on that. You know ammunition, dude. I don't know that stuff. I have to listen to people. I don't know. I mean, I just listen to somebody tells me buy this ammo, put it in a gun. I don't know that stuff. You do. And same thing for me when it comes to survival. Everybody needs to carry different things based upon those different aspects of it.
yeah, yeah, and that's pretty valid, because I'm thinking already now it's like somebody who's, I think of like a car bag, like a rescue bag in case, the weather is bad up here.
Right.
Um, we get this weird phenomenon called lake effect snow up
Yep.
here, and it could
Think about
be,
it down here, Dave. People don't have, I mean, people like you up there having a rescue bag is a thing that most people do. Down here, people don't have that in their vehicles, and they have need for it on a regular basis. I had to help somebody that was just didn't know how to turn their truck around. That got buried, and he and his wife were absolutely freaking out, thought they were going to die, and they were on a road, but they didn't have tow straps. They didn't have any. They had a bunch of cookies. They didn't have anything to. They didn't have any water. I mean, it was just and they should.
yeah,
So
they
it's
probably know. They probably
yeah.
do know.
Well, I gave them my card and said, you need to take this free course and I'll tell you what kind of stuff you need to have in your truck moving forward. And I hope they took it.
Craig, I'll throw you an idea after the class.
Okay.
So we're kind of delving into this now. So, we covered the, what advice you would have for somebody if they got lost. Simple. Sit your ass down, right?
Yep.
Wait, and
That's the
you're
answer.
probably going to be okay. Um, what about the whole idea of, the question of what does it mean to be prepared? I have a definition of it, but from my perspective, my definition is, I have the tool that I'm comfortable using and have knowledge of using, and I have the willingness and the mind and the mindfulness to know that there are limitations to it. But also I've built my life around the fact that I'm going to carry this tool because this will probably save my life in the worst moment of my life.
I don't feel any differently. Um, the way I like to look at it, and it's partially due to my statistics mind. And when I wrote my first book, for example, I collected 200 stories about how people died or experienced tragedy in the wilderness. And then I
Okay.
wrote a book to fix all those problems. And one of the things that came out in that research and putting those 200 story or 200 plus stories together is a lot of surprises that came to me like, really? They did that? And then I realized, oh no, that happened a lot. So we need to include that in the book. And so this is when people are trying to get the sexy information about survival, this always disappoints. Be prepared for the weather every day. When you get up, you need to check the weather and know what the weather is expected to be and have the things necessary to prepare yourself for it in case something happens. And so that's statistically likely. The weather is going to happen today. And so know what it is and know what it's like. Your EDC should be what you're capable of doing. I think everybody that has a firearm and carries a firearm, if that firearm costs $600, they need to spend 3 or 4 times the amount of money training with people like you, at least, at the very least, to become capable of utilizing that firearm. That doesn't make them good. I mean, that's what I tell everybody, because and I don't know what it's like up there, but down here you get a concealed carry permit or you open carry because you're whatever. And now because you can carry a gun, you're some Billy Badass or something. And it's just not true. You've got to train with your tools. No
Yeah.
different than survival. So weather being the first thing. And then simply put, what do you need to spend an uncomfortable night in the outdoors? Always have that with you, no matter where you're going. If you're in a vehicle, if you're going on a hike, if you're going on a picnic, have the things that would take care of you and whoever you're with to take care of yourself in an uncomfortable night in the outdoors. And then expand upon it. You know, I go through tiers of gear. Tier 1 is your EDC, the things you carry with you every day. Tier 2 is basically that kit, what you need to spend an uncomfortable night in the outdoors. Tier 3 is what I can call a sustainment kit, what you can add to it that would make life easier for you, maybe a sleeping bag. Okay. Whereas I might live because I have a garbage bag on me, but I'm not going to be comfortable. I might not get any sleep, but I will live. And then 4 is that whole mindset of what I call I'm never going home. That's where people on the internet reside in this conspiracy craziness world over here on level 4. But because it is a possibility due to some, you know, what's the term that's so cool these days? China and North Korea and Russia are a near peer threat, a threat that
Okay.
is similar to us in their capabilities, a near peer threat. Whether that near peer threat attacks us, whether there is an EMP attack, whether it is, you know, the people that are pouring across the border just inflict widespread chaos throughout the country and shuts the electrical system down, whatever all that stuff looks like. I think that's at tier 4, and you need to have gear to do that. For example, if I were to come to New York to train with you guys, I would have the gear necessary for me to walk back home and fight my way back home. I always go with what I feel is necessary to fight my way back home. And I talk to people and that they're like, Craig, you're crazy. I'm not crazy. I've read history. I'm an amateur historian, and I know history is going to repeat itself. And I don't want to be that far away from home and not be able to get back home via my feet. That's just my mindset. That's probably where the tier 4 gear comes in.
Yeah. Yeah. Like people always have this bug out bag, but they don't consider the get home bag and they don't
Yeah.
consider the get somewhere else bag.
And that's a great thing to bring up too, Dave. I mean, come on. The best place in the world is to be home. So bugging in is the best solution in the world. This whole bugging out stuff is for people that want to carry 30 mags and 2 5-gallon buckets of water, and they're going to make it 20 yards before they pass out because they haven't been doing any rucking, they haven't been doing any exercise, they can't even pick the freaking buckets up. You know, these are the people that love to get on the internet and talk about that stuff, but they don't actually get out and ruck. They don't get out and shoot. They don't get out and carry their stuff and see, man, this makes a lot of noise. Or I sling this rifle around. I've got my pack on. It gets hung up a lot. These are the things you need to figure out before you need them. You need to know that stuff now. You need to work out, man, that hearing protection, my batteries are dying than that every month. I need to get better hearing protection or whatever, all these things you need to figure out long before you need it.
Yeah. I read there was one guy I was reading about, and he said that if you've got to do a long trek home or to get somewhere, he said like he was saying, people would think the best way to get there would be just walk on the side of the interstate or follow the interstates.
Mm-mm.
And yeah, and he's like, no, side roads.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a lot of people are gonna want to steal your stuff and kill you on the interstate because they're
Yep.
desperate.
Yep.
Get on a side road, stay in the country, walk, like probably your perspective is going to be maybe make a trail through the woods and just be
Yeah. I mean, just
visible.
just be the gray man. If that means be the brown man, so you're out in the woods and nobody can see you, you use your camouflaging skills to be able to do
Yeah.
that. And sometimes camouflaging is being an earth tone in the woods, and sometimes that's here in Kentucky. It's wearing a Kentucky blue sweatshirt because everybody's freaky about the University of Kentucky basketball team, and I look like every douche canoe in Kentucky if I'm wearing a UK blue hoodie. I mean,
There
I
you
look
go.
like them all. I don't stand out. I don't look like a tactical Timmy. I'm not one of those guys.
Yeah, you got to blend. You
So
just got to
you
know where
have
to
to.
blend. It's urban camouflage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I did read quite a bit about the whole gray man thing a number of years ago, and they were saying it's like, just because you like this set of clothing, you think it blends with your environment. What if you're in somebody else's environment? You got to look at what they're
Absolutely.
wearing, right? Just like you said.
Absolutely.
So I guess the one of the other things is how we've been we've actually been hitting this a little bit. So you've
Hmm.
been throwing the hints out, which is good. But how can people start to be prepared? Like what would be the most important things to focus on? Like where would
I've got the greatest
somebody
answer for this question.
begin?
I got the greatest answer for this question. You're
All
going
right,
to love this.
hit me.
So here you are, everybody that's listening. Listen closely. I've got the solution for you to figure out what your needs are in a disaster situation. Plan this out with your family, whoever it is that you live with. And at some point in time, when you're ready, turn the electric and turn the water off your house and try to make it for a week and see what happens. And everything that comes up that is a problem, write down a note that says, okay, the poop is backing up the toilets and there's nowhere for it to go. Come up with a solution to fix that problem. It is the most brilliant thing I've ever come up with. I'll be honest with you. Because it's simple. I love simple. And everybody can do that. Most people that I recommend that to usually make it about 3 days. And the
Okay.
family's had enough. Now, we now have a baseline of understanding. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with realizing I can't do this. I can only make it 3 days. I couldn't even make it a week like this. Start figuring out the answers to those problems. And the answer to that problem is going to be different for you in New York than it is for me in Kentucky and for the person that is a single mother living in an apartment in Indiana. Whatever. All of us are going to have different needs and they're going to come to different conclusions about how to fix those problems. But that is a great way. And a lot of people have taken my recommendation on that and found out, man, this thing really surprised me, or I had no idea it would be that problematic, or whatever it might be. And it really helps people. And I'm recommending that to your listeners for sure.
Yeah, so we had an incident a couple of years ago in our house. Now we're on a septic, we're on a well,
Mhm.
but we're still fed by the power lines. And our power out there is sometimes you wonder why it's probably held together with bubble gum and prayers. And
Right.
and then we lost power. It's probably a day and a half to two.
Yeah.
And of course our water table is fairly high. So we have a sump that runs fairly often.
Mhm.
So that was a concern, but we have a backup generator that we can plug in and fire up. Um, and it runs the critical things. It runs the water pump for the well. It
Sure.
runs the pump for the sump. So it gets the water in, it gets the water out, basic power needs and everything. So, it's like, okay, that's good, but what happens when the gas stations can't pump any more gas?
Right.
And then we run out of gas. So it's a short-term solution for what could be a long-term problem. I
Correct.
remember, God, what has it been? Probably 12 years now, 15 years almost, when the East Coast went dark
Yeah.
after somebody just threw the wrong switch and overloaded something.
Yep.
Um, that
That's a
was
wake up call.
that was an experience. And it was, I gotta admit, my kids were young. And I think a lot of the difficulty was they were scared. They didn't
Sure.
know why, what the TV's not working. Why is the TV not working? How come I can't do this? How come I can't do this? And we had to, basically found ways to entertain them, and it involved going outdoors and doing things, walking.
Hmm.
Um, but it was interesting. Luckily, we had some food, and we just said we're gonna eat what we got. Worry about the perishables later. There was a farm nearby who said, I'll help you guys out. Help the neighborhood out. So we started, like you said, we started solving the problems, and it worked out pretty
Well,
good.
something, let me jump in there because one thing you
Yeah,
just mentioned is huge. And that is people today typically don't know their neighbors. And everybody listening needs to fix that. Go across the fence and shake hands and offer to help them do something. Go across the yard, see them at the mailbox when they pick up their mail tomorrow morning, and say, "Hey, man, nice to meet you. I'm Craig Caudill. What are your thoughts on survival and disaster readiness?" And they'll either think you're a freak or they'll go, "Man, I'm really worried about that." And then the conversation has
yeah,
started because that kind of community. Here's what people don't understand: this lone wolf mentality in survival is a death sentence, and we are going to have to work as communities together to make some long-term event, particularly even a 2 week event. It will be helpful to have neighbors that know how to help, and you can feed off of one another as far as you know strength, food, water, whatever, those kind of things. And then and somebody has listened to me go, "Man, I ain't gonna share my stuff with nobody." That's your choice. You can do that. You can do that. But there was an instructor a long time ago that said something that just struck me so hard. He said, "Everybody thinks it's going to be some dude with a rifle that comes to the door trying to take their stuff. And it's not. It's going to be some 12-year-old girl that her family's dead. She's looking for help. What are you going to do? Shoot that girl in the face? No, you're
yeah,
going to help that girl. You better, because if you haven't, then you're lost your humanity and you're no longer human. And so
exactly.
we need to prepare thinking about that 12-year-old girl or that 80-year-old woman that you don't want to see them die by themselves alone in a house because they're the only ones there and nobody's helping them. It doesn't mean that you have to give everything that you've got over and just let your own family suffer. But I highly recommend people that are storing supplies for disaster readiness have some extra stuff that they can share it, and then keep your own stuff. Take
Yeah,
care of yours because I think that's where it starts. We need to be able to take care of our own. But again, it's going to be other people that are not. It's not necessarily always going to be some roving gang with rifles and AKs coming after your stuff. It might be some little kid, or it might be some old man or woman or something. And I just haven't lost my humanity where that I'm going to turn them away. I'm just not going to do it.
yeah, you can't. There's no
No.
way. Yeah. So something you said earlier brought me to you related a story some months ago where you were talking about the weather and going out in the woods and being
Uh-huh.
prepared for an uncomfortable night. And you can continue it on, but I believe you were going out, whether you're going out scouting for something or tracking. And I guess you would check the weather. I remember that part of the story. You said you would check
Mm-hmm.
the weather and it didn't look like it was bad, but something changed after you went out and you didn't realize it and you got caught.
Yeah.
And I think I'll let you continue the story, but I remember you talking about this. It's like I think you said basically I effed up.
Yeah,
I
I did.
made a
And I'll tell
mistake.
you what I did. And it's a good lesson for everybody to know that number one, somebody that has written books and teaches people about survival on even for the 101st Airborne, I screwed up something real simple. And that was I pulled up my app and I had left it on the last place that I'd trained, which was several states away. And I was looking at their weather. I wasn't looking at mine where I was located.
That's
That's
right.
a that's such a beginner mistake, man. And
Yeah.
so I went out and got hammered because I made that mistake. But the thing that I try to share, number one, we all make mistakes and things happen, even to those that are very accomplished, things happen. But two, we've got to have something in our what I call our mindset training. I call it the critical rule of three. The Marines teach it as the combat rule of three, and that is if something's happening and three things go wrong, and you don't change what you're doing, you're probably going to die. on the battlefield for a Marine. Hey, if they're stuck in a hole somewhere and people are pounding them and they're just sitting there and things are getting closer and now they can't hear, that's three really bad things. They better freaking move. If they just sit there, they're going to die. Same
Right.
thing is true for me in that situation. Hey, it looked a whole lot more cloudier than I expected. I left my rain jacket at home because I wasn't as expecting it. And I forgot to tell, and I don't remember if exactly what this is what it was. I forgot to tell my wife where I was going. Those are three things that and I can't remember exactly what they were at that time. When I recognize that those three things are off, I need to stop what I'm doing and turn around and go home or go get those supplies. That because what we do is we go, okay, I'm okay. I'll just keep going. And
It'll
that's
be
when people
fine.
that's when people get hurt. That's when people get shot. That's when people are caught up in an active shooter situation. I mean, you just think about that rally in Butler. How many people saw so many things? Three, four, five, 10 different things, and nothing happened with it. I mean, that is people going, it's okay. That's expected. That's, how many things were missed, and I don't want to get into how stupid the Secret Service was there or in this recent one either. But fact of the matter is, we don't want to be like that. We are better than that. You are better than that. I should be better than that. Your listeners need to know, hey, I've got to have something that kicks me and my own self in the pants and goes, Craig, something's wrong. You got to fix it. And usually I call it the critical rule of three. Three things have happened that are really out of the ordinary. I've got to at least stop and think about what's happening and probably change what I'm doing.
Yeah. And it was good in a way, it was good you shared that because it, you know, it was a life lesson for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the things I was taught a long time ago as an instructor is you never teach to the negative. You never show the negative thing. But, I've also learned that always and never shouldn't exist in an instructor's vocabulary
Yeah.
because
Never,
there's
never,
always an
never, always.
exception and never the rule, right?
Never,
Um,
never, never, always. Another shooting instructor told me the same thing. Never say
yeah.
never and never say always.
And you took that and you made it a learning example, which, a lot of people, there's probably people out there that went, oh, he should have never said that. He should have never admitted that. But
Oh yeah, my
you know,
publisher's the worst. My
oh yeah,
publisher does not like me to share things that I've screwed up on, and I continually do that. And they say we can't. I mean, because they're my editors will say we can't put that in there because you're the expert. And I'm like, okay, I get it, but I mean, this is how I learned a lot of my best lessons is
yeah,
some of the mistakes I made. And just from a marketing perspective, and you've probably figured this out too, people love if you want to get a lot of interaction on a Facebook post, just be an instructor that is considered a subject matter expert on anything and tell your audience that you screwed something up. People will come out of the woodwork, and it's twofold: people laughing and
yeah,
other people trying to help. Which I'm trying to do a better job of me listening to people that are trying to help and not take offense. But man, that's a great way to get a lot of comments on a social media post is tell everybody I screwed up.
yeah. Yeah, I think that one was pretty lively. And that one,
Yeah, it was. It causes good
but
discussion.
yeah, it does. And that's the key.
Mm-hmm.
It's you want to bring it out there. It's like, hey guys, here's something to think about. If you're ever in this position, here's
Yeah,
what I did. It's a learning point for everybody that,
right.
if you really think about it, how did you learn everything you know? You probably went out, like you said, you went out as a kid. You probably screwed a bunch of stuff up, but you learned from it. And you're like, you know what? That,
Yeah,
don't eat that. It makes you sick. Don't step on that. It's going to
right.
hurt.
Do you know
Right?
who? Do you follow UFC? I don't follow UFC that much, but do you know who Conor McGregor is?
I do. Yes.
Okay, so I heard him say it's probably about 3 years ago. I'm either winning or I'm learning. Thought, oh yeah, I'm stealing that. I love that. I love that. I'm either winning or I'm learning.
Look
And
at
if you
that.
have that mindset on everything, it actually works out pretty well. Your ego doesn't get bruised. You actually use it as an opportunity to learn through your mistakes. Or hey, I did it right. Everything went great. And so I think that's a good mindset. I like how he said that.
I thought it was going to be something about after the 30th punch I stopped with my face, I started moving.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Well, he
No,
learned. He learned.
he did. Yep.
Yeah. So Craig, is there anything else you'd like to share with people who are gonna, I don't know. We got a few hundred that'll watch it, but maybe more now. We'll see what happens. But what else would you like to share about you and the school, and then obviously throw out how they can get a hold of you too, and then we'll make sure we put it down in the video as well at the end.
Well, again, thanks again for having me on. I mean, it's daggone. It's so nice to be invited to do something like this because it's your audience, and I count it a privilege. I really do.
You're welcome.
But yeah, I think the big thing is to come to my website, naturereliance.org. If you've liked any of the things that I've said or felt like they resounded with you, then come to my website, naturereliance.org. You can find on the menu item, there's the thing for online courses. If you click on that, you'll see the free course that I've been talking to you about. You can see our in-person courses and our calendar and all the things that happen there. And we'd love to have people join us in in-person classes in the online school wherever you're located. We sell a few things if there's something in there. We got a new knife design that just came out, so you can check that out. But the big thing that I would really like to get across to people is keep in mind this 4 puzzle pieces of survival: mindset, skills, teamwork, and gear. Work through those, apply those to whatever it is that you're doing so that we can all be better prepared for that next snowstorm, the crazy MP that could possibly happen, the Red Dawn event or whatever that looks like. And, I mean, and those things are, we can, we can get off in the tangent and talk about which one of those are probable and likely and all that stuff, but they're all possible. They really are all possible. For us to think that nobody can invade our country is stupid. I mean, there's some easy ways to invade our country, and I'm very thankful for the people that are out there doing what they do in the intelligence world and police work and military that keep that from happening. So meet your neighbors, go out and meet your neighbors, come check me out. I'm on all the social media stuff. I have YouTube channel. Everything's Nature Reliance. You can find me, just look up Nature Reliance Craig Caudill or just Nature Reliance. You'll find me on YouTube, 120,000 subscribers there, Instagram 25,000, Facebook 77,000. We have a really active group on Facebook. Dave's there. He adds stuff. Dave adds stuff for those that are listening. Dave adds stuff in there. Matt does too. So we've got some really good friends, and I appreciate you guys adding to the conversation there in on our Facebook community too. It's been very helpful.
Yeah. No, I know. It's good stuff, and it's good to see that our worlds can intersect a little bit and enough to make a difference.
Yeah, our Venn diagrams are probably a lot. I'd say that we're not 50% overlap, but I'd say we're pretty close. Not necessarily on the tactics, because you are gunfighting and gun shooting,
Yeah.
and I'm not doing that at all. But I gather that our mindsets are the same. The teamwork idea is the same, and even though the gear might be a gun there, well, the gun's a thing with us too. So I mean, I guess we
Still a
intersect there
tool.
too,
Yeah,
right?
it's still a tool, just
Yeah,
different
it is a
tools for
tool.
different needs. Yeah. Yeah, I suspect that we're gonna have to I'm gonna beat up Matt a little more, and we're either gonna get down there for a weekend of shooting and something together with you where
Okay.
you can put your forte to work, and then you can step outside your world and come join us. And the same thing for us is we can do something but step outside our world,
Yeah, man.
come learn from
Whatever.
you. And I think it'll be a beautiful exchange of information.
I love working with good people, and I look
Yeah.
forward to that opportunity.
It'll be fun. Craig, thank you so much for coming on. Everyone,
Yeah. Thank you, Dave.
we're gonna have some stuff at the end for you to look up and find Craig. And Craig, if you don't, I don't know if you would appreciate it or not, but if you want, I can see if Ed can put a still of the link for that free course
Yeah. Yeah.
on there
Whatever we
right
need
at
to
the end
do.
of the video, and then we'll
What I'll
get that
do
out
is
there.
I'll send you my link tree,
Okay.
which has links for everything that we just mentioned. And that way you can share that link, which has the free course in there too. So he can take a steal from the website, whatever he wants to do for that. And whatever it takes, I'm happy to provide that.
Yeah, I think Ed's already done it. He's probably already been on the website while we've been talking.
Okay. Good. Good. My kind of guy. I like that.
Um, So again, thank you so much for doing this. It was a pleasure to talk to you. It was great. As soon as you commented, you saw my reply. As soon as you commented on my post about what ideas do you have, and you said, I think you said, how about this nut that like runs through the woods and tracks people and teaches people to survive? I'm like, heck yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Awesome. Thank
it.
you. Sure.
And then and then Matt texted me right away. Did you see Craig reply to your post? So he's gonna be a little bummed he missed it, but I'll give him his moment. He
Okay,
will
that sounds good.
we'll let him do a little, maybe like a little. This was my experience with Craig in his class, and he'll probably
Okay.
say the he can't tell everything, right?
He can't talk about sear.
No.
We can talk about tracking all day. We can
Yeah.
talk about survival, but he's not allowed to talk about sear.
No,
What
it's
happens at
like
sear
Fight
stays
Club.
at sear.
Yes,
And he
exactly.
probably doesn't want it to come out either. What happens sear?
I'm sure there's some interesting moments. I know he hasn't shared everything, but he did tell me it was very interesting. He was glad he did it, and
Yeah,
there was some surprises from some of the people too, which was pretty cool. So,
sure. There always
um,
are.
oh my God. Other than that, Craig, I will definitely be in touch with you soon. We'll
Okay.
see what next year can bring for us.
Sounds good, my
And
friend.
by all means, stay safe out there and see what you can do to catch that guy.